Joan Vassos reveals why she won't live with Chock Chapple. It's been almost 6 months since Golden Bachelorette viewers watched Chock Chapple propose to Joan Vassos. But they don't live together. She reveals what's holding them back from taking the next step. Golden Bachelorette wedding plans on hold. Bachelor Nation fans don't have a lot of faith in the relationships from the show, especially after Jerry Turner and Theresa Nist's divorce. That makes them wary about the future for Golden Bachelorette Joan Vassos and her fiancé, Chock Chapple. Theresa and Jerry were married just a few months after getting engaged. Despite Bachelor Nation fans wanting to see them married, Chock and Joan aren't rushing down the aisle. She recently opened up about whether they will have a televised wedding or marry in private. The senior couple are taking the time to really get to know each other before taking the plunge into marriage. Joan Vassos reveals why she won't live with Chock Chapple. One issue that plagued Jerry and Theresa was distance. Neither one of them wanted to move from their previous homes to somewhere new. Some fans are worried Joan and Chock might fall victim to the same mindset. Joan still lives in Maryland, and Chock is based in Kansas, where he has a business. They initially shared plans to find a place in New York City together, but it hasn't happened yet. But according to Joan Vassos, the couple is living their best lives, even if they are living it separately. She explained to Parade magazine why they haven't relocated closer together yet. Joan admitted that people think it is strange they live in different states. She noted that the expectation is to live together immediately. In Joan and Chock's opinion, they make the most of the time they do spend together. She said she loves to visit him in Kansas because he throws a party every Friday at the country club. The couple also travel together. Does she have guilt over new love after husband's death? Joan Vassos was open during her time on The Golden Bachelor about the heartbreaking loss of her husband. He passed away in 2021 from cancer. She struggled with moving on. But when she found Chock Chapple, she knew her late husband would approve. Joan actually told me, "I want you to find somebody else. I want you to still have a life. You're young, you deserve a future." And I know that's true. It still feels really weird, but I know he's happy for me, she explained to Parade. Joan Vassos had spent a lifetime making choices that defied expectations. The Golden Bachelor runner-up turned unexpected leading lady knew what she wanted out of life, and she wasn't about to compromise, not even for love. When the inevitable questions began swirling about why she and Chock Chapple wouldn't be moving in together, she met them with the same grace and confidence that had defined her journey so far. It's not about love, Joan clarified during an intimate sit-down with a close friend over coffee. It's about preserving who I am and what I've built. From the moment she and Chock found their way back to each other, the world had been fascinated by their rekindled romance. Both had been through life's ups and downs, and both had experienced profound loss. It was that shared understanding that made their connection feel so effortless, so real. But when it came to blending their lives under one roof, Joan knew that wasn't in the cards. "I spent decades as a wife and a mother," she explained. "I was the one who made sure everything in the household ran smoothly. And when I found myself alone after my husband passed, I learned how to live for me. That's not something I'm willing to give up again." Chock, ever the gentleman, had understood from the start. He had his own routine, his own space, and his own way of doing things. Joan admired that about him. He wasn't trying to change her, and she certainly wasn't about to change him. What they had worked, and it worked because they both respected each other's independence. "People always assume that love means cohabitation," Joan continued, swirling her coffee absent-mindedly. "But at this stage in life, love is about companionship. It's about knowing you have someone to laugh with, someone to call when you need to vent, someone to share a meal with. but it doesn't mean sacrificing the sanctuary of your own space. For Joan, her home was more than just a place to sleep. It was a reflection of her soul, a space she had curated with intention. From the cozy reading nook by the window to the little kitchen, where she loved experimenting with new recipes, every part of it was hers. She wasn't ready to give that up, and she didn't see why she should have to. Chock, on the other hand, had his own space, a home filled with memories and routines that brought him comfort. While their love was undeniable, their lifestyles were different, and neither of them saw the need to force an unnecessary compromise. There's something beautiful about knowing we choose each other every single day, Joan mused. Not because it's convenient, not because we have to, but because we want to. She could see too many relationships crumble under the weight of expectation. Friends who had found love later in life only to struggle with the realities of sharing a space again. People who rushed into a traditional setup only to realize too late that they had outgrown that need. Joan wasn't about to make the same mistake. Her children, at first, had been surprised by her decision. "Mom, don't you want to wake up next to the person you love?" They had asked. Joan had simply smiled. "I wake up knowing he loves me," she had replied. That's enough. And it was. Love wasn't about proximity. It was about connection. It was about support. It was about knowing that, no matter where she laid her head at night, Chock was hers and she was his. Their relationship thrived on spontaneity. Weekend getaways, long dinners filled with laughter, quiet evenings where they watched the sunset from their respective porches while talking on the phone. It was unconventional, but it worked for them. Joan had spent a lifetime compromising. First for her family, then for societal expectations. Now finally, she was living life on her own terms. And if that meant keeping her own home, her own space, and her own sense of self, then so be it. "I love Chock," she said, finishing the last sip of her coffee. "And because I love him, I want our relationship to stay strong. And for us, that means not living under the same roof." Some people might not understand it, and that was okay. Joan had never lived for other people's approval, and she wasn't about to start now. As she left the cafe, she pulled out her phone and sent Chock a quick text. "Dinner tomorrow at our favorite spot." A few seconds later, the reply came, "Wouldn't miss it." And just like that, their love continued, unconventional, unshakable, and uniquely theirs. Their relationship thrived on spontaneity. Weekend getaways, long dinners filled with laughter, quiet evenings where they watched the sunset from their respective porches while talking on the phone. It was unconventional, but it worked for them. Joan had spent a lifetime compromising. First for her family, then for societal expectations. Now finally, she was living life on her own terms. And if that meant keeping her own home, her own space, and her own sense of self, then so be it. "I love Chock," she said, finishing the last sip of her coffee. "And because I love him, I want our relationship to stay strong. And for us, that means not living under the same roof." Some people might not understand it, and that was okay. Joan had never lived for other people's approval, and she wasn't about to start now. As she left the cafe, she pulled out her phone and sent Chock a quick text. "Dinner tomorrow at our favorite spot." A few seconds later, the reply came, "Wouldn't miss it." And just like that, their love continued, unconventional, unshakable, and uniquely theirs.